Anyareva Horvidyaya.
Anyarevahur vidyaya.
Nyada Horavidyaya.
Jnadahur avidyaya.
Iti Shushrumadhiranam.
Iti sushrumadhiranam.
Yena stad vichachakshire.
Yena stad vichachakshare.
Okay, next, please.
Okay, you go, Deepa.
Goodness. Anyadevahur vidyaya.
Anyareva Horvidyaya.
Jnadahur avidyaya.
Nyada Horavidyaya.
Iti sushrumadhiranam.
Iti Shushrumadhiranam.
Yena stadvichachakshire.
Yena stad vichachakshire.
Anyadevahur vidyaya.
Anyareva Horvidyaya.
Yadahur avidyaya.
Nyada Horavidyaya.
Iti shushrumadhiranam.
Iti Shushrumadhiranam.
Yena stad vichachakshare.
Yena stad vichachakshire. Deepa Mataji, like to read the translation, please?
The wise have explained that one result is derived from the culture of knowledge, and that a different result is obtained from the culture of nescience.
Okay, so Prabhupada starts off with the purport with referring to the culture of knowledge given by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So from the 13th chapter, text number 8 to 12, this is the process of knowledge as explained by God himself, by Krishna. So Prabhupada's going through these points from the Bhagavad Gita one by one to explain what real knowledge is. And like I've said, Krishna says at the end of that apart from these things, which are knowledge, then everything else is ignorance and nescience, like that. So we've been spending a lot of time on these points because, yeah, this is the real education. This is what I missed out on, and while I was at school. So we're trying to get this in our heads now. This is real education. This is real knowledge. So yeah, what's today's one is number 9. So Narendra, do you want to
One
read?
should completely refrain from practices which are detrimental to the interest of self-realization.
Yes, in the Bhagavad Gita, this point is Atma Vinigraha, which means self-control. So I definitely didn't get taught this at school. Who got taught self-control? Definitely not. Sort of do anything and everything. So whatever you feel like doing. So here, Prabhupada gives some more purport on what self-control is, to refrain from practices which are detrimental to the interest of self-realization. So our self should not do anything that's bad for ourself. You get that? You know what I'm saying? So we shouldn't do anything that hurts ourself. Of course, and what is ourself? That's a big subject. And like Krishna teaches that we're not the body, that we're a spirit soul. So, of course, we all know we try not to do anything that's going to hurt our body. But this is self-control really means not just that, but we shouldn't do anything that's going to be detrimental for our spiritual realization, for our self-realization. So sometimes something might be good for the body, but good for the senses, or good for the mind, but not good for the soul. So in that case, what should we do? We should refrain from it. We have to control that propensity. My body wants it, or you could say, what is the body? Made up of senses, right? My tongue wants this, a KFC or Burger King or whatever. Or my mind wants, this woman or whatever, this beautiful woman that walked by or whatever. But, okay, is that good for my spiritual realization? Yes. Okay, then do it. No. Okay, don't do it. Then you have to control that urge, that desire. And remember, we've talked about that. Narendra was saying he liked that first verse in Nectar of Instruction, right? Vachavegam manasakrodvegam. A person on the path of self-realization who's wants to become a guru, has to control the urges to speak and the mind's demands, the tongue and all this kind of thing, the belly, the genitals, everything like that. So this is important if we want to progress in self-realization. Of course, if you don't want to progress in self-realization, go ahead, be free, do whatever you like, but if you want to develop self-realization, you don't want to be doing things that are counteracting your progress. If I try, because I'm lighting a fire every day. I'm lighting a fire every day to cook, for cooking and heating water and stuff. If I try to light the fire and then I go and pour water on it, and then I light the fire and pour water on it, and light the fire and pour water on it, how far will I get? Not very far. So it's like that. You don't want to, okay, I want to become self-realized, and then I do something that's against that. Then it means I'm, like 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, so obviously it would be helpful if we can control those backward steps. We don't want to do anything that's going to take us backwards. Like, for example, chanting really takes us forward. That's what's recommended. The Harinam Sankirtan congregate, we talked about this on the Thursday session, that this is the process recommended for self-realization in Kali Yuga, is Harinam Sankirtan, coming together to chant Hare Krishna. But then, you make rapid progress if you do that, but there are things that can block that progress. And those things are called nama aparadas. Nama aparadas. That means, nama means name, and aparada means offense. So if we commit offense to the holy name, then even though you're chanting the holy name, but if you're offending at the same time the holy name, then you don't make progress. And it's said that if you keep making offenses to the holy name, you can chant for thousands of lifetimes and you'll not get the desired result. What is the desired result? That we get liberated, go back to Godhead, get Krishna Prem, love for God. So you won't get that. It's said we won't get that desired result if we make these apparatus. So we have to control those things. Like, what's the first one? The first offense is to blaspheme devotees who have dedicated their lives to propagating the holy name of the Lord. So that's the first aparada. So, you can chant Hare Krishna as much as you like, but if you don't control that, if you just blaspheme, you shouldn't blaspheme anyone, what to speak of devotees, but if you blaspheme devotees, or, it could be verbally, or it could be
physically.
Mentally also, could be mentally, you're thinking something bad. And also physically, means like you punch a devotee or something like that. So these are different levels of offenses. It's said in Kali Yuga, we don't get the reaction for mental offenses. It means if you think something bad about someone in Kali Yuga, you don't get a reaction for that. In previous yugas, you do. If you did that in Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, Satya Yuga, if you just think bad about someone, you actually get a reaction for that. There's some karma. However, in Kali Yuga, it's still not good to do that, because what's the problem with just thinking negative thoughts all the time about someone?
I think if you think negative, that's the start. Thought is a start where action, because it's so once you start thinking bad, you will more likely to do bad thing. You follow your thought, pursue your thought, and act on it. And
yeah, then you might end up with a punch.
Yeah.
So, thinking, feeling, willing, and then action. That's the stages. Thinking is the beginning, then feeling, then willing, and after willing, then the action comes, then the physical activity comes. So there is a danger even in thinking, undesirable, unwanted thoughts, offensive thoughts like that. So that's the first one. And then the second one is to consider the names of the demigods to be equal to or independent to the name of Lord Vishnu. So that's saying that if you think, well, chanting the names of the demigods is just as powerful or equal to chanting Krishna's names or Vishnu's names, then that's actually offensive. That doesn't say that we should put down or criticize the demigods either. Actually, they're also devotees of the Lord, so they should be given great respect. But however, even though they are great Vaishnavas, great devotees of the Lord, then, but you still can't make them equal to the Lord.
It's like frozen. Disconnected, I think. Yeah.
Don't know.
You still can't put them on the same platform of the Lord. They're servants of the Lord. They're not as powerful as the Lord. They're not Vishnu Tattva. They're Hare Krishna. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
No? Can you hear me? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Okay. So I was just saying that they're Jiva Tattva. So they're the same category as us. They're tiny souls. They're not Vishnu Tattva. They're not in the category of God. There's those persons on the category of God. That means like you have Das Avatar, right? That's all the God category. Means like Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Nrsimha, Vamana, Parashurama, Rama, Balarama, Buddha, Kalki, like that. They're all in the category of God. And then you've got all the devas, Brahma, Ganesh, Durga, Saraswati, Chandra, Indra, Varuna, Vayu, like that, 33 million. I don't want to tell you all of them. I don't know all of them. We'll be here for days. But there's one that's in a different category all to himself. That's not Jiva Tattva and not Vishnu Tattva. Do you know who that is? Who has his own Tattva? It's not Brahma. Brahma's in Jiva Tattva. But there's one of the Devas. I'll give you a clue. He's also known as Mahadeva.
Oh, Mahadeva is the Shankar Bhagavan, is it?
Yeah, Shankar, Shiva. So Shiva, he has his own category called Shiva Tattva. So he's not a Jiva. He's not a tiny soul. And he's not Vishnu either. But he's nearly Vishnu, but not quite. It's explained, Lord Shiva's position is explained in the Brahma Samhita by Lord Brahma, that just like yogurt is nothing other than milk with the addition of some sour agent, but it's still not milk. But it's not really different than milk. But in one sense, it's not different than anything other than milk. But in another sense, it is different than milk. So Shiva's like that compared to like yogurt. So you imagine Vishnu is like milk and Shiva's like yogurt. So just a slight transformation, So Vishnu has no connection with the material world, right? Shiva does. That's the difference. Shiva he's married to the goddess of the material world, Durga. So that's his wife, he's married to the Maya. He's married to Maya Devi, Durga Devi. So he's connected. So when the Lord has a relationship with the material world, that's Shiva. When he doesn't, that's Vishnu. Like Vishnu, he glances over the material world. It means he doesn't come in contact with the material world. He glances over the material world and impregnates all the jivas just by his looking. There's one verse you can check in the 9th chapter, 10th verse of the Bhagavad Gita, Maya Dakshina Prakriti. That say Maya means the illusory energy. Aksha means the eyes. Maya Dakshina Prakriti, the material energy. So, well, actually Maya in that case means by me. So Maya means in that case by me. Maya Dakshina Prakriti. So he's saying by my eyes, I impregnate all the souls into the Prakriti. Prakriti means female. So the mother nature, material nature is female. That's why we say mother nature. It's feminine. So he's the Purusha. He's the Supreme Purusha. But how he impregnates the female nature, the material nature, is just by glancing. So he's not actually coming in contact with the material nature. Interestingly, in other scriptures, it's explained that the glance of Vishnu is Sadashiva. That Sadashiva is that glance. So by that glance, then there's that contact with Prakriti, and Prakriti is impregnated by all the jiva souls. So that impregnation is carried out by Lord Shiva. By Lord Shiva, right?
That's something new.
You have the Shiva Linga, right? So that's what linga means. So he's like impregnating the material nature. So that's one of his functions. So we know he's the destroyer as well. He's the destroys. But yeah, he's definitely he's connected with the material energy. But yeah, but still, even Shiva is not on. You can't put Shiva on the same platform as well. That would also be an aparad, to put the name of Lord Shiva on the same level as the name of Lord Vishnu. What to speak of Brahma or a demigod or, anyone else, so that becomes an offense. So this is just a point I'm making about self-control, that we don't want to do anything, whether it be, smoke cigarettes or drink beer or hurt devotees or anything like that, then that's going against our progress in spiritual life, because that's the real goal. It's explained in all the scriptures that the real goal of human life is to develop love of God. And of course, if you get love of God, you're going to get liberated. So that's a byproduct. Actually, the real goal of life is not even moksha. It's not even mukti. That's not the real goal of life. That's a byproduct. The real goal is to get Krishna prem, love of God. And if you get that, then a byproduct will be that automatically you're liberated as soon as you have love of God, even if you're in the material world. Like Prabhupada, right? Was Prabhupada liberated when he died in 1977? Is that the point when he was liberated?
He was liberated? No.
Probably
he was liberated all the time. And he's always liberated because he's doing devotional service. So devotional service is the platform of liberation. If you're doing devotional service, you are liberated. You're completely free from all material contamination as long as you're engaged in devotional service. And if you're engaged in sense gratification, which means pleasing our senses, then you're in Maya, then you're in the material world, then you're contaminated, right? So that's the difference. So even the real goal is beyond even, of course, many Hindus and so forth would say the ultimate goal is moksha, is mukti. But what we're talking about in devotional service and bhakti yoga goes beyond that. There's a goal even higher than that. And it's very really understood. Mainly only the Vaishnavas, only the Vaishnav Sampradayas will understand that. Everyone else will be looking, that's into spiritual realization, will probably be looking at getting liberation like that at the most, And of course, it's very rare even that someone's looking at getting liberated. Most people are looking at enjoying this one little spot life now, or there's a few like in Hinduism and that'll be looking at going to Swarga, going to heaven in the next life. But
I think that's going to Swarga. It's because they don't have the complete knowledge. What's the ultimate? Probably that's what they think going Swarga is the ultimate thing. But if they don't have that knowledge that it's not, it's then that's I think so. It's most probably ignorance. I mean, not having complete knowledge.
Yeah, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that people that worship the demigods have alpa medasa. Alpa means very small, and medasa means intelligence. So basically a small brain. they're not very intelligent, But of course, they're better than a full-on materialist, because at least they're accepting a higher authority than themselves. At least they accept, if I'm going to be happy, I need to please Indra. If I'm going to be happy, I need to please Surya. If I want to be happy, I need to please, Indra or whatever. So at least they're acknowledged, and that's why it's in the Vedas. Demigod worship is in the Vedas, to help people right in the beginning when they're very materialistic, just to get to the point where they accept there's a higher controller. And that's a step up. That's progressive. So we're not putting them down, but at the same time, you can go further than that. It's a step up from being an atheist, definitely, but
it's a gradual, the gradual step. I mean, I think that's what it is. I mean, you can't just straight away go and get all the knowledge slowly. So, I mean, that is one of the ways you can basically, that's the start probably.
Yeah.
Different ways to know God.
Yeah. The point is that,
devotees of Shiva, is that considered demigod demigod as well, or not? Shiva?
Yes. Yeah. But he's the greatest of all the demigods, Mahadeva. So, but still regarded as demigod worship. But he is, in Bhagavatam, at 12th canto, it said, Vaishnavanam yata Shambhu, that of all Vaishnavas, Shiva is the greatest Vaishnav. So you're also, if you worship Shiva, you're actually worshipping a Vaishnava. Unknowingly for most people. Most people would not see him as a Vaishnava, as a devotee of Vishnu, but he is. I mean, he chants on Rudraksha. Do you know who he's chanting to? Who is he worshipping? Like we chant on our Tulsi Japamala. Do you know whose mantras he's chanting? His Istadeva, his worshipful deity, Istadeva, is Sankarshana. Sankarshana is a expansion of Balarama, and Balarama is an expansion of Krishna. So he's worshipping Vishnu himself. So he's a Vaishnava. Sankarshana is one of the Chaturvyuha. Chaturvyuha means the 4 forms, transcendental forms. There's Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. This is known as the Chaturvyuha. These are 4 transcendental forms of the Lord that are residing in Vaikuntha, in the Vaikuntha lokas. And the topmost planet in Vaikuntha is called Goloka, the planet of cows. That's where Krishna lives. But there's unlimited other Vaikuntha planets. That's the top one, Goloka. But the other ones are called the Vaikuntha Loka planets. And on those planets, those 4 forms of Narayan reside. So you've got Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha on those other, and they've got 4 hands, 4 arms, and on those planets. And then that Sankarshana expands into Vishnu. So from him, Sankarshana expands into Mahavishnu. And Mahavishnu, he's the one that starts off the creation of the material universes. And then, of course, when Krishna comes to the material world, all the other incarnations come with him. So you've got Balaram came, and all these other, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, they came. Like if you look in Krishna Lila, when Krishna was in Dwarka, he married 16,108 queens. His first queen was Rukmini. So the first child of Rukmini was Pradyumna. So he's that Pradyumna from the Vaikuntha, incarnated partially into the material world as the child of Krishna 5,000 years ago on the earth, Pradyumna. And the child of Pradyumna, the first child of Pradyumna was Aniruddha. So there you've got Aniruddha as well. So they all came, descended from the Vaikuntha lokas to join in Krishna's Leela in the material world. And Krishna, when he leaves one universe, he goes to the next with all of his associates. So simultaneously, you've got Krishna and all of his associates in the Vaikuntha doing all their Leelas there. And simultaneously, they're doing Leelas from one universe to another in the material world. So there's countless, thousands and millions of universes in the material world. So they're continuously doing Leelas one to the next like that at the same time as being in the spiritual world. So yeah, there's a lot there. There's a lot there. But yeah, so Shiva's not on the same level as them, and neither is Brahma in that. So of course we respect them as great devotees. So, I mean, Shiva's a great Vaishnava. We see him like he's like a guru. In Bhagavatam, there's many valuable instructions in the Srimad Bhagavatam given by Lord Shiva. Like he speaks to 10 of his devotees known as the Prachetas. The 10 Prachetas. So you can read about that in the 4th canto Bhagavatam. And there's some of my favorite verses are spoken by Lord Shiva. Very fantastic instructions. Some very beautiful instructions. And then he gives them he instructs the Prachetas. The Prachetas follow the instructions given by Lord Shiva because he's guiding them to worship Vishnu. So they follow, as good disciples, they follow the Guru, who's Lord Shiva, to worship Vishnu. And then Lord Vishnu is pleased by their worship, and Lord Vishnu appears with 8 arms. With 8 arms, he appears to the Prachetas, and they get liberated. They get liberated because they followed Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva directed them to worship Lord Vishnu, not to worship him. See, he directed them to worship Vishnu. It's like Prabhupada. He's a Vaishnava too. Does he direct people to worship him? No, he directs everyone worship Krishna. So, of course, people do worship the Guru because the Guru is a representative of the Lord. But he's not God. He's not God, but he's a representative of God. So whatever worship you give to the representative of God goes to God. That's the process. But the Guru himself is not thinking, I'm a big Guru, you worship me. He's just thinking, I'm just a menial servant of God, and he's telling everyone, chant God's names, become a devotee of God, worship God, bow down to God, like that. He's not saying, worship me or anything. Do you understand that? Does that make sense? Yeah. So like that. So that's if we want to progress in spiritual life, we have to be self-controlled, Atma Vinigraha. That's real knowledge. And of course, modern education is not giving that knowledge at all. No, there's no self-control. We're doing, most people in modern day society are doing horrible things in terms of spiritual progress. They're not going to get any spiritual progress. Lying and cheating and stealing and doing crazy stuff, and people are mad after just money and power. It's just ridiculous. And these are great obstacles to spiritual life. Actually, it said, I'll tell you the 2 greatest obstacles to spiritual life. One of them is money. One of them is money. And I'll explain about this. And then it said that from a man's point of view, woman. And don't get excited yet. And from the woman's point of view, man. Because anything that we're going to get very attached to and engrossed in, absorbed in, and cause, then that's going to cause forgetfulness of Krishna and our real goal of life. That's our enemy. That's bad. There's a saying, right? The love of money is the root of all evils. But think about this very carefully. The love of money is the root of all evils. It doesn't say money is the root of all evils. Is money good or bad? Neither. Is anything good or bad intrinsically? No. Is a knife good? Is a knife bad? No. In the hands of a doctor, it's good. In the hands of a criminal, a dacoit, a gunda, it's bad. It's the same with money. Money, it says, if you use your wealth to build a temple for Vishnu, this is 12th Canto Srimad Bhagavatam, it says if you build a temple of Vishnu, which obviously requires money, then you're going to get liberated. So that was good. Money was good. But if you take it to the casino or the brothel, it's going to destroy you. It's going to completely destroy you. So, like I say, all these things have to be strictly under control. You have to keep the money under your control. You have to use it in a very controlled fashion. If it gets out of control and the money's controlling you, or you could say Maya is controlling you through one of her instruments, which happens to come in the form of money, then you're destroyed. Then your life is ruined. And yeah, I don't want to get too excited about what's happening in the world today. I'm going to talk about that again. But the fact is, it boils down to money. It's all boiling down to money. All this craziness. It's all boiling down to some people that are just crazy for money, and they want all of our money, and they've come up with a plan to get all our money away from us. And so, yeah, enough said. But yeah, money can be very destructive and obstacle to spiritual life. And why saying woman? It's not that women are bad or that men are bad. Like I said, from a woman's point of view, man can be Maya, can be a cause of entanglement. I mean, like we've mentioned, right, that Ajamila, right? Ajamila was a good devotee like that. He happened to see a man and woman, a prostitute embracing with a Sudra, and he lost the plot. He went off track. So in that scenario, that woman was a great obstacle, and he didn't pass. He didn't. Of course, he chanted the holy name at the end of his life, and that saved his butt. That saved his backside. Otherwise, he would have been toasted by the Yamadutas, because the Yamadutas came to drag him to hell. But because he said, Narayan, Narayan, then, the Vishnu Dutas came and saved him. And he wasn't even referring to Lord Narayan, but he was referring to his son, Narayan. But just the fact that it was the same name as Lord Narayan saved him. So the thing is that anything that might entangle the soul in the material world, we have to watch out for that. Anything. Like with Bharat Maharaj, Bharat, it said he was on the stage of Bhava Bhakti, just before Prema Bhakti. The highest stage is Bhava Bhakti. Means when he would chant and do his puja and that, tears would come from his eyes, and he would be shivering in ecstasy, all his hair standing up and everything. He was experiencing different kind of ecstatic symptoms. So very elevated, but he happened to get attached to a deer at the end of his life. He was alone in the forest, to get away from all the materialism. He actually gave up his kingdom. He was the king of the whole planet. Can you imagine? It's like, Bill Gates just walks out the door and goes to the forest, like that. He was like emperor of the whole planet. He just left his wife and family and ministers and citizens and fabulous wealth and everything, and just took up spiritual life, and he became perfect. But towards the end, he saw that the mother deer died while giving birth to a baby deer, and the mother was dead. So he took, compassion on the baby, and looked after it, and it grew up in his care, and he slowly became attached to it, and he gave up his puja. He slowly became so attached to the deer, he gave up his puja and everything, to the point where one day the deer went missing, and he went crazy. Where's the deer? Where's the deer? It should be where is Krishna, but where's the deer? Where's the deer? And he went looking for the deer, and he fell in a covered up well. Sometimes an unused well will get covered by long grass and so forth, and people can fall in and die. So he died falling in the well. And obviously, what was he thinking at the time of death? He was thinking about the deer. And as Krishna says in the 8th chapter Bhagavad Gita, yam yam vapismaram bhavam chadyatya anta kalaveram. Whatever you think at the final moment of life, that's what you get in your next life. So that caused his fall down, was that attachment to a deer. So any material thing we get attached to can be bad. So like it says, back to the love of money. The love of money, what does that mean? You're attached to money. If you become attached to it, I mean, if it's just a tool, an instrument, a tool, like you use the car to get from A to B, then that's no problem. But if you worship your car, if you love your car and worship your car, and, oh, my dear car, it's so good to see you again, and then you give your car a hug and everything like that sort of thing, it seems crazy, but that's the sort of thing. We get so attached to material things. So anything in this material world, if we get too attached to it, can be an obstacle to our spiritual life, except for devotees. If you become attached to a devotee, that attachment is actually very good. That attachment will burn up all kinds of material attachments, because a devotee is completely spiritual. So if you become attached to a devotee, like even if your partner was a devotee and you become attached to them, that's very good, or the spiritual master or whatever like that, become attached. That's a healthy attachment. Devotee explains that to Kapila Muni, who's one incarnation of the Lord, who appeared as her son. Explained that no, actually Kapila Muni explained that to Devotee. He explained it to his mother, that attachment to the sadhus, the saintly devotees, will counteract all the bad effects of material attachment. That will counteract all the bad effects of material attachment. And he explains, well, who is a devotee? What are the symptoms of a devotee? He says, the devotee is that person that doesn't have any material attachments. And if you become attached to them, that will counteract all of your material attachments. That's cool, isn't it? The devotee is that person that doesn't have material attachments. And if we become attached to them, that will counteract all of our material attachments. So I really like that verse. That's a really good one, and that's really nice. Your speaker is off, Narendra. I saw your lips moving. I saw your lips moving, but I couldn't hear.
Shortcut to be associated with a devotee, otherwise you go the long way, right?
Yeah.
You get the qualities from the devotee, pure devotee.
That's right. Yeah. So obviously you're attached to them. So if they're very humble, very tolerant, very compassionate, they're very attached to Krishna, then you'll also develop those qualities. That's the idea. I mean, any good qualities we've developed at all, if we have any, is because of, associating with the devotees and, reading Prabhupada's books and imbibing some of his qualities and things like that. It's amazing, you know. Just that if we're reading Prabhupada's books like now, this is Prabhupada's book, Sri Isopanisad, we're associating with Prabhupada, and some of his divine goodness is rubbing off on us slowly. We might not even notice, but it is, and we're gradually going to get transformed. We're gradually going to become transformed.
Yeah, association is very important. I think, I mean, that's right. I was reading a story or book, something that a lion and his cub. So the mother died.
Yeah.
So this girl from the village picked up the baby cub.
Yeah.
And she took it. She was actually taking her goats. So she put the cub with the goats. And how did the cub start when he grew? How did he start behaving like goat?
Like the
Similarly, like Mowgli, you know, he was taken by the. I mean, it's a fantasy, but the underline is basically the association. The whatever association you have, you will have those qualities will automatically come into you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so we become like whatever or whoever we associate with.
That's true.
And you know, therefore, if you have the right association, that's very good. But if you have the wrong association, then watch out, you know. So if you associate with people that are always talking about money all the time, you know, how to make more and more money, and you got to do this and that and this and that, and then you just become like that, you know, you absorb that. So we have to be very careful. Of course, we all need money. We know that. And we're saying, you know, that money is not good or bad. It's just how you deal with it. But you have to control the money. Don't let the money control you. You know, and we've seen, and we're all suffering in this world today because we've come under the control of people that are under the control of money. We've come under the control of people who are under the control of money and under the control of power and fame and position and all these kind of materialistic things, and greed and, you know, lust and anger and pride, and, you know, so this very, very difficult situation, and, you know, very difficult situation. But
do you think, I mean, do you have to basically control your senses, what you see, what you hear? Because like you gave example of Ajmila, if he would have just turned his eye and moved and walked away, he wouldn't have gone to that, you know.
That's right.
So it's also important what you actually spend your time looking at.
Yeah.
But in this world, it's very difficult to
definitely
go further.
Yeah, I mean, and it's hard. Let's face it. That self-control that we're talking about is not easy.
Not easy.
It's hard to control this, the mind, the senses. It's very hard. And even Arjuna says it's like to control the mind is like trying to control the wind. You know, and Krishna even agrees with him in the next verse, 635, says that it's true what you say, but it can be done by practice and detachment. So he agrees that it's difficult, but that it can be done by practice and detachment. So undoubtedly it's hard. Yeah, but we have to make the attempt, and the beauty of Bhakti Yoga is if you just try to do this because you're trying to serve Krishna, you're trying to please Krishna. Krishna's seeing your struggle. He's seeing your struggle to control your mind and senses, and he'll help you. So that's the difference between us and an ordinary yogi, that the Bhakti Yogi gets special help from Krishna in his heart. Special help. Krishna gives the buddhi. That's why Bhakti Yoga is also called Buddhi Yoga. He gives us the intelligence to help us within our heart. And from outside, he sends the guru and so forth, the devotees, to help us. Whereas if you're not a devotee of Krishna, you're on your own, mate. Sorry. You try to control your own mind and senses by yourself. You don't get any help, you know, and mostly people fail. But for the devotee, it can become much easier because Krishna is giving so much support, so much help. And we see that many times devotees can overcome, you know, great obstacles, you know, great that other people, you know, they fail, you know, but definitely it's not easy. But yeah, Krishna helps. What does it say? God helps those that help themselves. So you have to just try. You make the effort. Definitely, it's not going to have God's help is not going to come to you if you're not doing anything. You have to make an effort to try to control the mind and senses and try to serve Krishna, and that's the best method of controlling the mind and senses is to positively engage the mind and senses in Krishna's service. That's the secret. So just by doing devotional service means just by you chanting your japa, by you reading the books, by you cooking for Krishna, honoring the prasadam, means you're keeping your mind and senses engaged and busy. So there's no time to get diverted into sex, drugs, rock and roll, McDonald's and all this, casinos and pubs, and there's just no opportunity because we're busy chanting and so forth. And that was Prabhupada's formula. He kept all his disciples extremely busy and gave them very demanding services and duties that left no time for any kind of undesirable sense gratification. So that was actually great mercy. That's great mercy that the spiritual master gives us some higher engagement. And that's known as the param dristva, the higher taste. If you have the higher taste, then you can give up the lower taste. But if you don't have a higher taste, how are you going to give up the lower taste? I mean, how did I give up? I was brought up eating meat and fast food, KFC, Burger King, everything like that. How did I give that up? Very easily, when I got prasadam. As soon as I was in the temple and having prasadam available, that automatically everything else was given up. How much effort did it take me to control my senses in terms of my tongue from eating meat and drinking beer and stuff? How much effort it took me to control my senses? Nothing. Because they had a superior engagement. But imagine if I didn't have any prasadam and no devotee association and no chanting, no Prabhupada's books, then how much effort it would take. So much. And I probably wouldn't be able to be successful, So, yeah, we have the best process to help us develop self-control.
And I was reading, I think, Bhagavad Gita chapter 17 or something, where it talks about austerity in the modes of material nature. So, would you say that austerities, they told three types of austerity. Which is, one is
austerity of speech,
body, tongue, and mind. I think,
Is this in the 17th chapter?
Yeah, I think, there are 3 verses which tells different types.
One is austerity of speech, austerity of mind, and I think, austerity of the body.
Body, mind,
of the body.
And, speech. Sorry.
Yeah.
So would you say that that's basically it's controlling that, right? Austerity is, using it to the right level, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you're using your senses and mind in Krishna's service, not in Maya's service. And I mean, one example, because that's one verse I've learned, is the austerity of speech. So that one is saying that austerity of speech is speaking words that are truthful.
Please, should be pleasing and...
Yeah, pleasing. That are truthful, pleasing, beneficial.
Beneficial, yeah.
Yeah, like that. And in quoting from the scriptures.
And time and, I think, time and place as well. Oh, that was charity, I think. Okay.
Yeah. So, there's charity in the modes too. There's different modes of charity and everything like that.
Yeah,
so
saying that's comes as part of the control, I guess. I mean, you're basically using it for the right purpose, I guess. Austerity is that, right? Not using it for material.
Yeah, so everything. So for us, self-control means we want to try to do everything in the mode of goodness, sattva guna. Means that's according to the scriptures. And what is the scriptures? Scriptures is God's words. Means what God wants you to do. So that's what's favorable to Krishna, to our spiritual life. Well, what is favorable to our self-realization? Basically, everything that Krishna says. You do everything that Krishna says you should do, and don't do everything that Krishna says that you shouldn't do. So that's what, and how do you know that? That's in the scriptures. The scriptures say, do this, do that, and don't do this, don't do that. So if you follow that, and that's the mode of goodness. It means, mode of goodness means in knowledge of the scriptures. So you have knowledge of the scriptures, that's mode of goodness. And if you follow that, then that's self-control. And if you're not aware of that, or if you are aware of that but you choose not to follow it, then that's passion, that's ignorance, that's sinful life, that's degradation, that's no progress in self-realization. So that's the thing there. That's the recommendation. And that's the recommendation in the end of the 16th chapter, which is divine and demoniac nature, is that you should take the evidence from the scriptures. That is called pramanam, the pramana, the evidence. That's the evidence of what? Karya means what you should do and what you shouldn't do. So how do you know what you should do and what you shouldn't do? Where's the evidence for what you should be done, shouldn't be done? That's in the scriptures. That's karya vivastatol. Vivastatol means for determining. How do you determine what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad? And in modern day society, you ask people what's good, what's bad. They'll say, "Oh, you decide. Whatever you feel is good, whatever you feel is bad. If this feels good for you, that's good, and if this feels bad for me, that's bad." So it feels good for me to eat meat, for example. People would disagree, right? For you, Hare Krishnas, it feels good for you to eat vegetarian, but for me, it feels good, to eat meat and cows and so forth. But actually, that's not a fact. There is a specific right action, and wrong action, and that's given in the scriptures. You can't, otherwise it's just mental platform. What we normally talk about is on the mental platform. In my mind, this is good, my mind, that's bad. And you've got 100 minds, and they have 100 goods and 100 bads. So they can't all be right, isn't it? Can there be 100 truths? No, there's only one. So we need to go beyond the mental platform, and the only way to get beyond the mental platform and find out the absolute truth is you take it from the scriptures. And then, so then it's saying you should do your work, but according to what the scriptures say.
You should follow the manual from.
Yeah. Because some people also, they want to give up their work, stop work, but that's not what Krishna says. Like Arjuna wanted to give up his work as a Kshatriya, right? And Krishna said, no, you do your work, but do it according to the scriptures. That's the point. You have to, it's not about whether you work or whether you don't work, but your work should be in line with what the scriptures say. Don't do your work against what the scriptures say. So for a Kshatriya to fight in a according to Dharma, the principles of Dharma, that is the right thing to do. He should do that. He should not walk away from the battlefield. That is against the scriptures for a Kshatriya to leave the battlefield. So yeah, these are all different points. Self-control. So everything like that, we have to take control of our time and not let time control us. And then that's really can be really bad these days in terms of the social media and that, right? You spend hours flicking through social media and then you realize, what happened to my 3 hours? That it all went through just flicking through meaningless things, that we're just doing, no practical benefit in our life.
I think that's the biggest problem at this point. I think that's why the attention spans are going shorter, because we are so much into social media and all this. I think that needs to be regulated. Yeah, that's if you don't.
And other things like sometimes people spend too much time working, like 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that's got out of control. And then what's going to happen to your spiritual life? How much chanting are you going to do if you work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week? Basically, probably nothing, you know. Or if you sleep, for 12 hours a day, what's going to happen to your work? What's going to happen to your spiritual life? It's all going to be out of balance. So the whole thing is you have to control it. You have to control the time for your body. That means your sleep, your eating. You have to control the time for your mind. That's your work. Gives you mental satisfaction. And you have to control the time for your soul. You know, time to chant. I mean, if you chanted 14 hours a day, that's also going to cause problems for us at this stage, probably, because you know, how long are you going to continue that for if you don't sleep, if you don't eat, or if you didn't pay your bills? The landlord's going to come and kick you out of the house. How are you going to chant? Under a tree? You know, good luck. You know, so it means you have to control everything, not too much, not too less. You don't let anything get out of control. Otherwise, our life is going to develop, you know, problems is going to come. You know, so we need to see that's what it means. Go Swami. You know, a Swami or go Swami. Swami means to control. Go means the senses, the mind and senses. Go Swami, you know, controlling the senses. So we all don't just think, oh, that sannyasi he has to control. I don't. I'm just a grihasta. No, we all should become swamis, and not just the men. The women also. The women have to control themselves. The men have to control. You're married or not, single, doesn't matter. You're brahmachari or sannyasi. Everyone, of course. The sannyasi is supposed to have practiced it, so he's become really perfect at it, good at it. But we need to start practicing right from the beginning of life, you know. That's why it's meant brahmachari right from the beginning. The student, he is controlling, especially the celibacy. Brahmachari means no contact with the opposite sex right from the beginning of life. That means self-control is trained by the Gurukul right from the beginning. No connection with the opposite sex. Otherwise, how are you going to focus on your education? You're just always looking at the opposite sex. Then it's all lost, right? That's why even modern education, sometimes they'll have schools as just girls' school or just boys' school. Why is that?
They don't get distracted, you know.
Yeah, so no distraction. So, you know, and like now, all of us, we're all married people, but you just have to keep it under control, that the married life doesn't become a distraction from your spiritual life, but it's actually supporting your spiritual life. And that's what grihasta means, that your family life is supporting your spiritual life, you know, that you have a partner so your mind is peaceful, so the lust goes down. Because when you're by yourself, often the lust goes up, you know, so you get up, okay, solve that by getting a partner, then the lust hopefully should go down. That means you can focus on God like that. But of course you have responsibilities now. You're not just by yourself. So you have to do some work to provide for your family. So, you know, there's some sacrifices there and some austerities there. But basically it's supporting you to help control the lust, the calm. And as Krishna says at the end of the 3rd chapter, that's our number one enemy. Prabhupada called it Mr. Lust. Mr. Lust. So, and grihasta life can help that, to help to control that. So it's a great blessing actually to have a good husband, a good wife. And if you can just peacefully, you know, be peaceful and then progress in your spiritual life, and then that's wonderful. Then that's very good. And that's the whole idea. So we shouldn't see that my family life is Maya. I mean, it can be, but it doesn't have to be. And Actually, we should see, in Krishna consciousness, we should see everything connected with Krishna. Why do we see the wife as Maya, the husband as Maya, the money as Maya? Where Krishna conscious persons to see the wife as Lakshmi, goddess of fortune. The husband is Vishnu Duta. He's servant of Vishnu, Vishnu Duta. That the money is Lakshmi also. Means the energy, the property and the energy of Narayan. So I should use the money in Krishna's service. So in that way, you see everything in Krishna consciousness. So we don't want to be negative about family, we don't want to be negative about money or whatever, but we do want to be Krishna conscious about everything. And the warning is, if you don't deal with your wife in Krishna consciousness, your husband, the money, the house, the job, it will destroy you, guaranteed. That's a guarantee, and that's guaranteed by not just by Charandas, but by it's coming from God, that's going to destroy you. That's going to I mean, just look at perfect timing. Yesterday was Ram Vijay Utsav, which is known as Dussehra, which is called Ram Vijay Utsav, the victory of Ram over Ravana. He killed Ravana. Basically, he killed Ravana yesterday was the anniversary, 2 million plus years ago, the anniversary of him killing Ravana. And look what happened to Ravana when he didn't practice self-control. When he became lusty for another man's wife, Ram's wife, Sita, and he was just power hungry. And, Lanka means city of gold, right? So he was mad after gold and mad after women. And look what was the result of him being mad after gold and women? The arrow finished him, right? He went against Dharma. You went against God. He tried to take God's property away from God. And look what was the result of that, being lusty, greedy, envious, angry. I mean, look at, Prahlad's father, Hiranyakashipu. Do you know what Hiranyakashipu means? 2 words, Hiranyakashipu. Hiranya means gold. Kashipu means, this is Kashipu.
Oh, pillow.
Yeah, means soft bed, pillow, soft bed, means sex and money. That's what he was after. Just enjoying on the bed, sex and money. Hiranya, gold, and Kashipu, bed. And what was the result of that? Was he ever happy? Was he ever satisfied? No. And to the point where he was so crazy, he wanted to kill his son. I mean, if that's not crazy, I don't know what's crazy. So he was so crazy, he wanted to kill his own son. Why? Because his son loved God. I mean, he's a complete nutcase. And what happened? God came and killed him, because he fully deserved it. And of course he got liberated. But just see what it can do to us. If you're too much after materialistic living, it will destroy you. It will destroy you. I mean, it's the so-called leaders of the world. They're fully in the grips of it. They're fully in the grips, and unfortunately, we're fully in their grips. And they're fully in the grips of this lust and greed and everything. And so they're fully in the grips of Maya. The people that lead the world are fully in the grips of Maya. And we're small little souls, we're fully in their grips. So what's our position? Not very good. But fortunately, like Prahlad, we just take shelter of Krishna. Krishna, save me, protect me from Hiranyakashipu. So that's like we should do, and Krishna will protect us, and he is. I mean, like, we had a completely ecstatic experience today going out into this madness world, just chanting Hare Krishna. I mean, I just share this, not trying to be proud or anything at all, but it's just the fact that when I was chanting two particular times over about an hour that we were chanting, I was just overwhelmed by feelings of just so much love and happiness, and it was just I couldn't even keep chanting. Twice in that period, and Jayanti had to take over, and she was wondering what was happening. She saw something was going on, and I was just overwhelmed. It was just so ecstatic. It doesn't matter, even in the most crazy situation, you just chant and you just try to serve the Lord. And I realized that that's what Krishna wants me to do. He wants me to go out and these poor people that are suffering so much fear at the moment, so much anxiety at the moment. People are losing their jobs and people are getting so sick and dying and everything, and they're so worried and paranoid. And just people were so happy to see us chanting. People were like tooting their horns and waving at us and saying thank you and coming up to us and everything and saying Hare Krishna. And it was just so ecstatic, and I just became overwhelmed. It was just, I really felt Krishna was just dropping nectar on my head. It was just amazing. So, I mean, even in difficult situations, if we take shadow Krishna, Krishna will protect us. Krishna will help us. And that'll work for anyone. It's nothing to do with me. It's to do whether, are we going to serve Krishna? And then you're going to get the mercy. And if you're going to just be all about you and me and, them and, everything, then sense gratification, then you miss out. You miss the boat. You miss the mercy. So everyone is eligible. Everyone's eligible to get it. Whether you're a Prahlad, 5-year-old kid, or a Swami or a woman, it doesn't matter. Anyone can get it. Anyone can get it. You're an old man, young kid, man, woman. I mean, look at me. I'm just come from a crazy New Zealand family, just militias, Yavanas, meaty cow killers family. I mean, I'm the most degraded background possible, and Krishna's so giving me so much mercy. What to speak if someone's a pious Hindu background, whatever like that, how much mercy they can get also. But, if we don't take the mercy, then, I mean, if you're a pious Hindu and you don't chant Hare Krishna, you're buggered. You know what I'm saying? But whatever it is, you have to take it up. You have to take up chanting. You have to do something that God wants you to do. And, in this case, God really wants us to share Krishna consciousness with people, the holy name, prasadam, the philosophy, the books, whatever. And that's very pleasing to God. If you do that, then you're going to become happy, like that. And I mean, I was just amazed. People became so happy hearing the holy name. So happy. And it's so factual. If God's pleased, everyone becomes pleased. And I was just realizing that more today. You just got to focus on making one person in your life happy, God. And if God's happy with you, then you're going to notice that everyone becomes happy more. That's the best thing to do. Anyway, I've gone over time.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Does anyone want to say anything?
That's good.